Hey guys, got a bit of a deck update for you guys today. This is going to be an update for the scam deck, Rakdos scam, for the timeless format. And I made a few changes to the deck, and just wanted to talk about it real quick. So the main change I made to the deck is adding the one ring to the deck. Now, playing the deck for about a week to 2 weeks so far, I noticed that the deck does struggle a little bit in card advantage, just because you're massively dumping your hand to invoke the Grief and the Fury, and then you're reanimating it. So it usually costs about 3 cards or so. And if your opponent somehow gets rid of the Grief or the Fury with removal, you're down quite a bit of cards. So I've tried a couple of different cards. I tried the Pyromancer back then just to see if I can maybe get a bit of card advantage. Thing I found about him is that he's a lot more weak to Bowmaster. Bowmaster will wreck him. And then 3 mana, just draw 2 cards. Not that great. You do get a body though. However, the drawing the 2 cards is somewhat conditional because if you have a grip, maybe you have like 2 cards in your hand. You cast him, you're essentially just cycling through your hand. It's not that great. It doesn't give you pure card advantage. The only time it gives you pure card advantage is if you've got 1 card in your hand or 0 cards in your hand. Then you draw 2 cards. But that wasn't really consistent enough to what I wanted to do. So I needed a engine or a card that would constantly draw me cards, regardless of the cards I had in my hand. Sometimes Locked Rain did that, but you lose quite a bit of life doing so. So I just remembered that modern or current scam in modern plays the One Ring, which I was like, okay, maybe we can give that a try in Timeless. And so I decided to cut the Pyromancer and a couple other cards I didn't think I need for the main deck in order to make room for the One Ring, and that's worked out pretty well, especially in the mirror match. I don't know why, but I guess it hasn't really been um, talked about or seen a whole ton of play, but against the mirror match, which scam is really popular right now in Timeless, no one's really playing the One Ring. Um, they I've seen builds that play like other types of draw engine that aren't great, or they're playing something like main deck Deathright Shaman, or they're playing a lot more Reanimate, playing maybe 4 copies of Reanimate. But no one's really playing the One Ring, from what I've noticed. And against the mirror match, this card wins. There's just nothing they can really do to stop the ring. Once you drop the ring, it doesn't matter how much grief they're trying to invoke or Thoughtseize. It's gonna protect you from Thoughtseize, or if they have a Fury on the board, protects you from taking 6 damage. So you just go ring, draw a card, and then find a card that hopefully deals with Fury. Either fighting your own Fury or you're fighting a Molten Collapse, or maybe a Bolt if they didn't do an undying effect on it. If they didn't do an undying effect on it, it's usually just a 3/3, which you can remove with Bolt. So yeah, that's what I've been finding out that unironically the One Ring is pretty good in the deck. However, because of the mana base is quite greedy, I've only been playing 20 lands, so that means getting your 4th land drop is a little bit more difficult to get to, a little bit more rare. So you can definitely alleviate that situation by maybe playing 21 to 22 lands. I didn't want to cut down on color cards as much, just because if I put more lands in the deck, then my opening hand's gonna have more lands than color cards, which you're gonna need to invoke the Grief or the Fury. And so I'm still trying to stick with 20 lands and still playing the Ragavan and the Fable to help create treasure tokens in order to get you the mana that you need to be able to cast the One Ring or Shieldred. That's another thing I want to talk about. Shieldred. Shieldred previously wasn't all that great in my opinion, just because it's 4 mana, do nothing in terms of our game plan. But with the One Ring and Shieldred, I think it works out really well. So you're able to just draw a bunch of cards and heal and stay alive in the game, while your opponent just can't seem to finish you off. Which I which is working out really well. Obviously, they usually target Shieldred to get rid of, because the One Ring is a lot harder to interact with due to its nature of being indestructible. The only way I've seen people get rid of the One Ring is they use Oko. That's one way to get rid of the ring, but even then, it still gives you a 3/3 body, which you can use to clock them. So it's Oko is not the best answer, but it is an answer to the one ring here. Um, yeah, outside of that, no one else is really countering the one ring in terms of any particular way to remove it. So it's been pretty good. Um, Cards I cut, like I said, was the Pyromancer. I cut a copy of Fable and a copy of Ragavan. Um, Ragavan, I hate and love this card still. Like if you play early game, they don't remove it, then you just able to ramp into your treasures, and you're able to actually hard cast the Grief and Fury without needing to invoke them, which is really nice. It dies to Bowmaster, which I really hate, which Bowmaster is very, very common. So, and obviously drawing multiple copies of Ragavan isn't that great either. So I decided maybe 3 copies is just fine enough. Um, my turn 1, we're still trying to either Thought Seize or Reanimate, so Ragavan sometimes conflicts with that strategy, so we don't really necessarily need 4 copies. Maybe even 2 is correct. Or you can completely replace Ragavan with Deathrite Shaman. Deathrite Shaman ramps you, if anything. But the only issue with Deathrite Shaman is we're not really playing too many fetches, so I'm not quite sure if Deathrite is going to be your greatest turn 1 play. You're kind of reliant on your opponent to fetch a lot in order for you to use his ability well. The reason why I have him in my side deck right now is just for graveyard hate and maybe to exile sorceries or land, depending on what deck I'm playing against. I don't have any green sources in the deck at the moment. Um, you could play maybe a Overtomb or Overgrowth Tomb um, to kind of give you that extra green mana to use him as a hate card against maybe Phage or some other um, Titans. But at the moment, I don't think it's quite necessary. We have some other graveyard hate cards, so I don't think we're gonna use his banishing or grave banishing ability or exiling ability, I should say, quite yet. But he's in the side just in case. Um, Reanimate's been overperforming, I would say. Uh, Gets you your own Fury or Grief, or you can revive their Fury and Grief if they have one in the graveyard for whatever reason. So yeah, it's quite great. The only issue is life total still. Just looking at the deck, you don't seem to do a lot of damage to yourself, but oftentimes this format's kind of quick sometimes, and they're doing a lot of damage to you, so you don't always have the luxury of being able to just spend 5 life to bring back a Fury. You're still cracking a lot of lands, you're still shocking yourself quite a bit, so um, life total does become a issue mid to late game. So I would recommend maybe 2 to 3 copies. I don't think 4 copies is correct. Maybe it is. I don't know. I just think the life total might matter too much for you to be able to play 4 copies. Um, the Undying effect I think is a little bit better in terms of being able to save you on life total. And it's also an instant, so you can still trick your opponent to wasting removal and then just bringing back your creature, which is really good. Obviously, it's not as flexible as Reanimate. Maybe the maybe the correct thing to do is to play 3 and 3. That might be good. But for now, I've only have 2 copies of Reanimate, so I'm just gonna play 2, and then just 4 copies of this one. This one's probably the best Undying effect. In terms of red card, we also went down quite a bit on red. So Fury turn 1 is a little bit harder because you're not gonna be always opening with a red card along with Fury. Which is hence why I don't want to add Deathrite Shaman or some other effects because we're going to be cutting down on more red. And then at that point, we're not going to have enough red for Fury. I cut Croxa because we're going to replace Croxa with basically a Shieldred as our game ender, or just hard casting the Fury and Grief. So I don't think Croxa is relatively needed, and we're already hitting cards in an opponent's hands, so his discard effect is not that great either. So Croxa kind of went to the sideboard. He's there in case maybe against like the mirror match or something like that. He might be a little bit better because if they're griefing and thought seizing you, they're just gonna put food for Croxa in the graveyard. So he's good. He's better there. That and we're not playing the Pyromancer and max copies of Fable. So if we draw him, he's not gonna be that great. Because we often want to just discard him with Fable or Pyromancer, but since we took that out, drawing him is going to be much worse in this particular build. So we took him out. Molten Collapse has been pretty decent. Hitting just enchantment sometimes is kind of valuable, or just usually hitting Chalice on one is pretty impactful for us. That we're just getting rid of other Furies, getting rid of Shieldrids and other big creatures. It's not a permanent solution to Phage. Phage has been also a very difficult card to deal with. We can sometimes outvalue the Phage or the damage Phage puts on by just trump blocking it, but you know him pinging 3 damage is pretty relevant as that kills our Fury and that kills our Grief. I don't have a way to make or a main deck way to stop him quite yet, so we'll have to see. Uh, Mentioned sideboarding a little bit. I think Surgical is going to be pretty decent against Phage here. I decided to add in Chalice of the Void because we have played against a couple of Cascade decks, a couple of Rhino decks. So Chalice is just to be played on 0. I've beaten Rhinos even though they casted Crashing Footfalls for like 3 times. They had like 12 or like 9 Rhinos or something like that. Or sorry, 6 Rhinos. And I was able to just use Fable and copy Fury multiple times and just clean board with them. So yeah, not too bad there. Soul Guying, just more graveyard hate. We also have Gold Blank for more graveyard hate. This is namely to play against any Jeskai control decks, any decks that are just maybe Bant even, or Sultai that has like the or Boris, I suppose, that has Phage, because Phage is hard to deal with. So that's what the graveyard effects for. Shieldred Edict here, just for anything indestructible that we can't really deal with regular removal of lightning bolts and fury. And Blood Moon, finally, I think this card is good against a lot of mana bases nowadays, especially the Phage mana bases. They're going really greedy. They're not really playing that many basics. They're playing a lot of dual lands, so Blood Moon's going to be pretty good against that. And we obviously have the triple swamp, so that shouldn't really affect us all that much. And then yeah, just overall the deck's been pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's my favorite because the play pattern of Grief and Fury and reanimating is very greedy. You know, obviously if you get your combo out and they have no way of dealing with it, then you just win. But if they deal with it, then you're just top decking. You're just trying to struggle to get back into the game, which I guess is kind of like one of those feel bad moment. But with One Ring, I find that a little bit less. If you're top decking lands, that's fine. You're okay with drawing lands, and then once you get the One Ring activated or played, then you're kind of back in the game. You're just drawing a bunch of cards. Your opponent either deals with this or they lose, and then you drop the Shieldred. They either deal with it or they lose, which is kind of nice. Yeah, the main thing is if your Grief and Fury plan fails, then you're gonna just fall back on the One Ring to get you back in the game. Um, Obviously, land drops is very important, more so now than back then. Um, if you can at least get to the One Ring, if you can get 3 lands plus a treasure token to get to One Ring, you're bound to draw more lands, and then with more lands, you're able just to hardcast Fury and Grief, which is fine. But yeah, just something to keep in mind. Land drops are actually kind of important now. Unlike other decks that can just play on one to maybe 3 lands, we need to get to the 4th land nowadays with this particular build. So yeah. All right, guys, that's basically it, and I'll see you guys next time.